All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. So let's open your browser. You can go to VS Code. So for those who already have VS Code installed, you don't have to do this. You can just follow along briefly. So you can just Google VS Code, VS Code. So for those who are new to programming, because I know we have a few of those amongst us, so go to VS Code and then go to download. So if you can see my screen, you can see download Visual Studio Code. There is the link for Windows, one for Linux users, another link for Mac users. So yeah, for those on Windows, you click on the Windows link. For those on Mac, click on the Mac link. For those on Linux, so click on either the Ubuntu version or the Red Hat version, depending on your Linux flavor. Once you click on any of those links, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to click on this. Let me click on this for Mac. So you can see it's downloading here. Look at the top right corner here, VS Code Darwin Universal.zip. So once it downloads, then you double click on it because it's a zip file. You double click on it if you're on Mac. On Windows, you extract. So, but on Mac, you double click on it, it extracts the file. Then you can now move that file to your application folder. So if I double click on this now, this is my desktop. So it's extracting the content of the zipped file. So you can see, so after extracting it, this is the application itself, right? This is the application. So if you double click on it, it's going to open and load Visual Studio Code for you. So that's for Mac, right? But I don't have a Windows laptop here to demo what I just did now. So but for those on Windows, just follow the instruction, follow the steps, click on this Windows link. It downloads the executable file for you. I believe that should be zip as well, but if not, you can just double click on it and it starts the installation. So once that is done, you can launch your VS Code. So you can launch your VS Code. You should have something like this. Let me close out of this and open a fresh one. If I'm too fast, please kindly call me back so that I can go over. So let me launch VS Code here. So after installing VS Code, you should have something similar to this, right? So for the first time, it should tell you maybe the release notes for version 1.9.4 if you just downloaded yours today. Then there is a welcome screen as the first tab. You can go through new file, open, clone Git repo, recent files that you worked on. For those who are just installing it today, of course, you won't have any recent files in this section. So I've worked on recent files, of course, in the past. So that's why I'm having this here. So what we're now going to do, so go to your desktop because again, we want to start working on our first project. And we're doing that to kind of teach us and have a better understanding of HTML elements, right? Go to your desktop, create a folder on your desktop. I'm going to do that as well. New folder, let's name it week 2, right? So yeah, let's name it week 2. Hope we are following along. So after creating the folder on your desktop, then go to your VS Code. There are different ways to do that. what we want to do is to open that folder inside our VS Code, right? So I can just go to File, Open Folder, then I can navigate to the folder. I have it on my desktop. So let me see, I'm going to my desktop, come on, open. Then I have week 2, right? And then I can click on open at the bottom right corner here, open. So now, so you can see under the Explorer panel or tab by the left hand side, we can see week 2, week 2. So I have the week 2 folder on the opened on the Explorer. So I want us to move quickly on the Explorer. So what we want to do now is to create a file. Let's create a new file. So you can right click. There are different ways to do that. You can write this whole area here means that I'm inside the week 2 folder, right? So this whole area here means that I'm inside the week 2 folder. So if I right click anywhere here, I can do new file. I can select new file. That's option 1. Option 2 is to come to these icons at the top right corner of this panel, this week 2 display here. I can just click on this icon here. It's a shortcut to creating a new file. So once you do that, you give it a name. So let's give it index.html. So once you do index.html and you enter, right, pressing enter on your keyboard, it opens on the display area on a new tab. Let me close this. I can minimize this. So it displays here. Or let me drag this. So it displays here as where you can type your code, where you can type. So this is where you type your source code, right? Hope we are following along. Last week we talked about the basic structure of HTML. We saw some codes and all that. So we'll just do a revision of that and then we'll start working on our Africa Gazette. Again, if you want to follow along, sorry, I forgot to mention, let me post this here. For you to follow along with this coding, I already have the starter files, right? The images and the content of the Africa Gazette project on my GitHub repo. So let me paste the link quickly. So you just go ahead to my repo and download. In fact, let me open it. I think it's already opened here. Let me see if you can still see my screen. Yeah. So if you can see my screen, let me paste this on the chat box. So that link on the chat box now, look at the chat window, the link there is my main GitHub repo, right? Remember I gave you j.ajibade@gmail.com. That one is for you to submit your project, your assignments, your assessment. But this one is my main GitHub repo. So you can follow me on that one as well. You can check out my other repos there. So now go to that GitHub repo, the link that is on the chat right now on Zoom. Click on it. You will land on this page. You can go to the repository link. Look at repository, repo, short for repo. So once I click on it, so the first repo here is Web Development Bootcamp. You can see it's public, right? It's public. So which means you have access to it. Once you go there now, you can see it. So if you click on it, so it takes you to this branch, which is of course the default, the main branch. So download this branch, download it, right? Again, there are different ways of downloading code. The more technical way and all that is to clone the repo or you can fork the repo, F-O-R-K. You can fork the repo such that you can do pull requests and all that. We'll still talk about all this, of course, not in this class. These are advanced concepts. When you want to collaborate with people on the same source code, you fork the repo, you now have it on your own account, right? Although it's still linking to the owner of the account, but you're having it on your account as if it is yours. So that way you can do pull requests, you can collaborate, you can contribute to the code, and then push it back. The person receives it and sees that, oh, okay, this person is trying to contribute to my source code. Do I want to accept the pull request, right? So I go through it. Is this something I want to accept? And then you accept. So that's advanced concept. But for now, just download the zip for those who are new to coding. So click on this code, right? It will show a drop down, download zip. Once you click on that, it's going to download this repository as a zipped file on your machine locally. You have it locally on your machine. That means you'll be having the starter folder and then the readme.md file. So if you open the starter folder, there are contents in the starter folder, basically images and then one text file. So there are, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 images and then one text file. And you can open the text file. So this is the content of the blogging website we want to create. So this is it on my, so I now have that whole repo on my laptop locally now, not on GitHub. That's the meaning. You can see web development bootcamp -main.zip. So it's going to add the main to it because I've downloaded the main branch. So there's the concept of branching in Git. Remember we said Git is version control system. So when you're working on your project, you can work on that project, you can branch out and have different versions of the project. So yeah, so this is the main branch. So if I double click on it, on Windows, you extract, since it's a zipped file. On Mac, you double click, it extracts the content as a folder. Look at this folder now. If you go into it, you will see the readme.md and then the starter. So the starter folder contains 5 images, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the content.txt. So let's go back to our VS Code now. We can actually open, let's copy, yeah, let's do that. Let's copy, so copy this, let's copy all this. Let's copy starter to make it easier for every one of us. So copy this starter, copy the starter, go into your week 2 folder and then paste. You can paste the starter folder there. Now let's go back to our VS Code. So look at the folder I copied. So the starter folder is now inside my VS Code, meaning I can see all the files and I can see the content of this. So let me open the finished Gazette website. That will be our guide. So we'll be looking at that to build this. So let me open, double click on this. So let me bring this to the screen. What we are seeing on the screen gives us, it is a very simple page, right? We can see Africa Gazette. Now, what is Africa Gazette? Africa Gazette is a hypothetical blogging platform that we are building as our first project, right? So remember what you downloaded from my GitHub repo? The content.txt should have all the text documents you are seeing here. Let me go back to let me close this. let me, yeah. So if I open on content.txt, this is the content of the web page we are building. You can see Africa Gazette, the people, compare this with the page we opened. So you can see the people, the land, language, weather, culture, which is the text that you have here. The people, the land, language, weather, culture. Then you have the continent of Africa, right? You have the text here, and so on and so forth. So this is the content that we'll be using to build our page. You can see the picture of the person who posted the link, the article, and then we can see posted by. So all this will help us to kind of learn how to use the various HTML elements that can help us to structure this particular page. We can see an image. How do we use images? We can see this text here. This is actually a figure caption or the caption of this image. There is a tag for that as well. So that's why we say HTML describes the structure of a page. So if you want to display an image, there should be a tag to display the image, right? If you want to, for example, now I want to put the caption of this image, then there is a tag to do that. And again, when you are programming, also learn to use reference documentation. Very, very important. You go online, check out reference documentation and see how to use them. Then we can see this another header tag. We can see some italics here. Look at this one point. Let me zoom in a little bit. If you can see my screen. Look at this text here. You can see it's in italics, right? So that is the emphasis tag. The old one used to be the I tag, but it's been deprecated. So the current one that is recommended is the EM tag. So we'll see how to use that as well. You can see this text is bold, 3000, 2000, has a bold font. So it has a bold font. We can see this section. We can see lists. This is an ordered list. It is ordered because we want it to follow a particular order. Look at, we are saying Africa's top 5 countries by population. Nigeria, 223 million, Ethiopia, 126 million, Egypt, 111 million, DRC Congo, 102 million, Tanzania, 67 million. So we can see it should follow a particular order. So that is the reason why we use an ordered list for something like this. If of course, I can't put DRC as the first element, put Ethiopia as the last one, because you've distorted the order of this particular list. So there are 2 types of lists. There is the ordered list and then the unordered list. So we'll see how to use that as well. Look at, in fact, the next session uses the unordered list. You just use a bullet point, which you can customize with CSS. That's why there are some websites you go to, you see very nice bullet points and all that. What we are seeing here is the default one that HTML gives to you. But with CSS, you can do anything you want to do. So you can recreate this, beautify it and all that. But this is just the default one. Again, ordered list, by default, it gives you numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Then unordered list by default gives you bullet points like this, as you can see here. Then there's another feature again. Look at this population here. There's a link to a footnote. When you are on different sites like Wikipedia, for example, or you are in a website that talks about research and all that, and you want to reference a link. So this is the concept here. So if I click on this link, which is a reference or a footnote giving me further information about this population data, Once I click on it, see, it takes me to the bottom of the page where I have this number one here. It now talks about that population data, saying this population are estimates as of 2024, and the numbers are continuously changing due to growth rates across the continent. Source World Bank. So it just gives you more context. Again, you can't just put somebody's data online and and start using it. You need to reference. Even in academia, it's good to reference other people's work. So that's just an example of what we're trying to do here. So that's a feature. So again, there is a particular link that you can use to do that. There is no footnote link or element directly, but there is another element you can use called the SUP. There is the subscript, superscript. Superscript, from, remember, mathematics indices in those days. Superscript is something on top of a number, subscript something at the bottom. So HTML has a tag for superscript. You use that to implement footnotes like this. What else again can we see on this page? You can see other images. Again, look at this, related posts. Now, related posts, the concept we're trying to demonstrate here is using an element called aside, ASIDE, aside. It's an HTML element called aside. So an aside element is to group elements that are somehow related to the main content or the main article of the web page, but that can be used in different pages. So for example, when you are browsing a particular page, you can see something by the right hand side or the left hand side tells you related posts or read more about this, things like that. But again, we've not talked about CSS. Everything is just flowing from top to bottom, which is what we're seeing here. Look at this related post. This shows, now look at this dotted dots here. It's similar to what we have here, right? That means this should be a list. So this is a list of 3 items, 1, 2, and 3. So now we've gone through the different sections of this Africa Gazette blogging site. So what we want to do now is to go ahead and start coding this. So this will help us to learn more about HTML. So with last week we talked about the basic HTML, or it's very simple HTML boilerplate, right? So once you have your VS Code opened, you have your index.html file already created, go ahead and do this. Now, one way, again, for those who are just starting afresh, you can type out the code, right? But for us to move very fast, it's good to use, Emmet. Emmet comes with VS Code by default. It helps you with boilerplate codes, shortcuts, and all that. For example, if I want to bring up the default HTML boilerplate, right? Once I do exclamation, that's one option, and I do this, it's going to give me the HTML boilerplate that I can start working on, right? That's one option. But if you don't want to use your exclamation mark, you can just simply type HTML. Once you type HTML, it can give you, you can select the option HTML:5. Once you do that, it gives you the same thing. So this is the HTML5 boilerplate as provided by Emmet. All right. So like I said, Emmet comes with VS Code. It helps to speed up development. By the time you are now advanced and you want to code very fast, it's good to use the features provided by Emmet. And there's an Emmet cheat code. I'm going to give you all the links that you need. So there's an Emmet cheat sheet rather that you can look at. For example, I want to do on ordered lists. on ordered list, UL with children, LI, I need 5 list items. Once I do this, you can see automatically it gives me unordered list with 5 list items instead of having to type all this out one after the other. So there's a cheat sheet, there's an MS cheat sheet you can look at that talks about all the features or how to use MS in coding. Um, so that's that again, as a beginner, you shouldn't do this, right? You want to really learn how to type the code yourself. But because we are here online and we have to move very fast, you will see me use some of these shortcuts once in a while, and I'll explain them as I do. So again, this is the default boilerplate provided by Emmet. We talked about this last week. So what the only thing we want to change here now is the title of the document, right? Let's go back again. So if you look at this Africa Gazette, look at the title of this tab here, the continent of Africa. You can see. So whatever you put on this title element shows up in that place, right? It shows up in that place. So let me just open, I have the content here, right? So I can copy the continent of Africa. Since you have the contents, go back to your HTML and paste the continent of Africa. So now let's view, as we are coding, it's good to see what, or the output of what you are doing, right? So you can as well just double click. So let me go back to, this is already saved. Let me go back to my desktop with 2 folder, index.html. If I double click on this, I want to see the output of what we just did now. In fact, let me add something to the body section first. H1 rather. This is the page. So if I double click on this, it has opened on my other screen. So let me drag it here so you can see it. So this is the page. What I just typed now, look at here. What I typed here, this H1 element, what I just typed here gave us this. This is the page. This is the result of what we just did now. Again, look at the title of the tab. You can see the continent of Africa is coming from this title under the meta section of the HTML. All right, so let me just quickly explain this. So if I put this is the, I can type, this is the title, and then of course it's saved by default because let me check if I go to file, autosave is selected here, and I refresh the page. So look at the title. If you can see my screen, the title has now changed to the text I just put in now. This is the title. It's going to appear here. So anytime you go to a browser and you see any text on the tab or on the window of that browser, that shows that text is coming from this particular section of the markup, right? So let me undo that. So the continent of Africa, that's that. So another option, I went into the folder, I double clicked on it, and then I have to now start refreshing to see the result or the output of what we just did. That's good, right? But a faster way that you can use during development is to use another extension called Live Server. Live Server is another extension that helps you to serve your pages locally during development, as if those pages are being served by a web server somewhere, but your pages are being served locally, and it has the advantage of refreshing. It reloads itself Once you make changes to your script, to your markup script, automatically it reloads. You don't have to, start coming, start double clicking, start refreshing. No, you don't have to do that. So I already have live server installed. If you have live server installed, at the bottom right corner here, you will see go live. If you can see my screen, at the bottom right corner here, you can see Prettier is also here. Remember we talked about Prettier. Prettier is a formatter that is already installed on my VS Code. Then there's also go live. Let me go to my extensions tab again and do live server. It's a popular server, popular development server used by developers. You can see about over 54 million downloads. Look at the downloads here. 54 million downloads. So it's a very good development extension to serve your pages while you are developing your website locally, or your web pages. So now how do we start live server now? I'm going to click on, so I said there is a go live button here. There are different ways. I can right click on this page and do, I think there should be a go live somewhere here. Yes, open with live server. Look at this option here. You can right click any page. So live server will turn the enclosing folder, in this case week 2. Week 2 is the enclosing folder. Live server will turn it to the home, or as it's going to serve that page from that folder. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's one option. Another option is you can just click on this go live button here. Once I click on go live, it has popped up here. Let me bring this window to this place so you can see it. And then I'm going to align the pages side by side. So see the difference. Look at this one. This page and this page, no difference, right? Or the only difference is, look at the URL. This is coming from file users Cletus desktop with 2 index.html. Look at the URL here for this particular one. But for this one, it says 127, look at 127.0.0.1. So for those who already have basic knowledge or intermediate knowledge, or even our advanced people on the line, on the call, they know that that is the localhost IP address. So your system, every system is identified by an IP address. And I think we touched on that last week. For every website you go to that is hosted on a particular location, there is a TCP IP, networking technology going on, somewhere. So locally, when you are serving your pages on your desktop, right, on your machine, the local web server assigns a particular IP, which is the local host IP. You can as well just use localhost / whatever the port, and then you start serving your pages. But the default one that live server is using is 127.0.0.1 : let me zoom in my screen so you can see. Oh no, okay, I can't zoom in that section. But yeah, if you can see the address bar, look at 127.0.0.1 : 5500 / index.html. So it means that live server is working. And if you go back to your VS Code, where you started the live server from, remember it was go live, right? Look at the bottom right corner. It's now port : 5500, meaning that live server is running on that particular port, right? So there's a way you can change the port. This is the default port that came with live server, right? In case you have other applications that are running on that same port, Two applications cannot run on the same port. Hmm? So there is a way you can change the port. But of course, the default one is 5500, and there is no other application running on port 5500. So I'm good to go, right? So somebody says, did we shut down Prettier because of live server? No, I didn't shut down Prettier. Prettier continues to run. Live server is also running, right? So let me try to put my or tile my screen side by side so we can see what I'm doing. So let me put this one here. So let me drag this a little bit to the right, and then I can do this. So now look at, so this is live server serving this page locally. If I make any change, look at, if I just type something now, this is the page we are building. You can see, if I can type building without refreshing, without clicking refresh, and I don't have to go to my desktop to open the to double click on the file. Immediately, live server is serving the changes to us, right? So it is a very good development extension that you should have installed on your VS Code. All right. So again, I'll be looking at what we are building. Where is the final? Oh yeah, this is it. So we have the Africa Gazette. So the first thing we can see here is the title, or we can say the branding of our hypothetical blogging platform. So this is just a small font, an icon font, and then a text. So let's see how we can do this here. So let's go back to our development environment. Let's open this, go to our starter, and then the content.txt, which is already opened here. So we can copy this. We'll copy this, go back to our HTML, and then we'll paste. So let's remove all this and paste. You can see refreshing automatically. Nice. So Africa Gazette. So you can see we're gradually seeing what we're having here. This is the final design that we have here. So Africa Gazette is there. Like I said, it's an H1 tag. So ideally, you should have just one H1 tag in every page or in every article. In this case, we are building a blog, right? So every blog post or every web page should typically have one H1 tag. Now, the reason is because of SEO, number one, and then accessibility reasons. Accessibility meaning trying to build applications for people who are maybe visually impaired, for example, who use screen readers. So HTML5 encourages or recommends semantic HTML. Semantic meaning that the tags we are using should have meaning or purpose behind them. You are not just seeing the colors and the beauty and the visuals of those elements on the screen, but those elements should convey meaning, so that when somebody is using a screen reader, somebody who is visually impaired is using a website and installs a screen reader on their device, the screen reader can read your website as if it is a human being reading to them. So the screen reader can say, oh, okay, SEO or whatever sees the first H1 element as the main heading. Imagine having 5 H1 heading on the same page, right? Number one is confusing to you as a human being. If you're on an article, on a page, and you are seeing a title very big at the middle of the section, another title, another name, the same font size, you'll be confused. what is, which title is the beginning of this article, which one is this, which one is that. So the recommendation is to use just one H1 element per page. Again, it depends on the type of website you are building, right? So you could have, one or two, depending on this, on the individual section. If you have a very long page, a very long web page that has two or three sections of articles, then you can argue and say, oh, I need an H1 element in each of those sections. So that's that. So again, there is no hard and fast rule about this. These are recommendations. Remember last week we talked about people like W3C, that's the World Wide Web Consortium, people like Mozilla Foundation, Apple, and the likes. They are the gatekeepers of the web. They are the gatekeepers of HTML. So they are the ones bringing out these recommendations, telling us, oh, these are the best practices to implement when you are developing a website, right? So let's take note of that. So we have Africa Gazette, and then the next thing, where is our guide? We're having these links here. So let's talk about hyperlinks. So if we click on this, okay, this goes, so okay, there's a page already. If we click on all these are hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are anchor tags. In HTML, they are called anchor tags. Let me quickly demo something here. If you do this A, right? This particular tag is called anchor tag. It is used to link to other pages. Now, broadly speaking, there are two categories of hyperlinks, right? You can have internal links. That means links that are pointing to other resources within the same website. And then you can have external links. That means links that are pointing to resources outside of your website. For example, if we go back to the demo site, look at this footnote at the footer section. It says this source, World Bank, right? If I click on this, it should link to the World Bank website, right? So this is an external link. This is an external link. And let's go back again. Let's scroll up. If I click on this, the people link here, it should go back to the same web page. Sorry, the same website, right? I'm not linking to another website entirely. It's the same website, but linking to a different page within the same site. That's one. Another way is linking to the same page. For example, when I demoed the footnote the other time, if I click on this this footnote tag here and I click on it, you can see I'm on the same web page, but I'm linking to a different section of the same web page. So those are types of internal links. So internal links, again, you can link to different resources or pages within the same website, or you can link to other sections or portions of the same web page, which I just demoed now. For external links, you are linking to external websites or resources entirely, like we just showed now. So how do we build these links? How do we build them? That's what we want to do now. So let's look at our demo page again. We're having 1, 2, 3, 4 links, right? So, and I can put them together. I can just do a tag because I want to be fast. I can do hash. So if you put hash there, it means that we are not linking this particular anchor tag anywhere. We're not pointing it anywhere. Maybe we are using it as a placeholder. You don't have anywhere to point it to, right? So that's when you do that. So let's get our content again. The first one is the people, the people. So I can duplicate this. You can see automatically it's loading on our web page. I can duplicate this, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can put this on a separate line, separate line, separate line, another line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next one is the land, the land, the land, the people, the land. The next one is language, language. So this is how you develop websites, right? Coding from scratch, of course. And then weather. Then the last one is culture, culture, culture. Come on. So culture. So gradually, this is looking like what we have here, right? So we've talked about header tag or heading tags. Last week we said there are 6 of them, right? Let's just quickly demo them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I change this to 2 to 3, you can see how my tags, I'm editing the opening tag, automatically the closing tag is being edited. There is an extension for that. So that's why I said with time, you know how to customize your desktop, your ID very well. Then, and I think this also comes with Emmet by default. So H4, H5, and then H6. Automatically, it's closing them. Look at, so these are the 6 heading elements that we have in HTML, and you can see their sizes. H1 is the largest, H2 is the next, H3, H4, H5, H6. Now, the reason for this again is for search engine optimization, for assistive technology, like building assistive technology for the visually impaired or people who may not be able to use our site as a result of one impairment or the other. But mainly when Google crawls your website and it sees an H1, it knows that, oh, this should be the main header for this particular web page. And then it displays that on the landing page, or displays that for the user to see. In HTML, they will have what is called block level content and inline level content. So for example, let me quickly do this so as to demo. Let me put a paragraph tag here. Paragraph tag. Let's say this is a paragraph. Paragraph. So let's give it a style. Font size of 5 rem. Or let's do 3. This is too big. So let's give it a let's see, background color of red. So now look at this P element, right? Look at this P element. So I'm trying to distinguish between block level and inline level element. Inline, just look at inline as something flowing from left to right, as if you are writing the way you write on a book, right? So inline elements are different from block level. Block level elements, they occupy the entire, what is it now? The entire parent element from left to right. And if you have another element close to it, it places that element in the next line. For example, so in block level elements are always displayed on a separate line. If I duplicate this, so look at these two paragraphs now. I've duplicated them. They are on separate lines because they are block level elements, right? They are block level elements. But look at the A tag. There are other tags, A tag, the span tag. Span is a very popular one. Span. This is a span, or this is an inline level element, right? Now I can see how it is flowing. Look at this span I just added now. Or let's talk about this A tag first. Even though I've broken these A tags into separate lines in my source code, but they are still appearing as if they're on the same line. So that is the meaning of inline. Inline means that you are just as if you are writing from left to right. So inline elements flow from left to right. They are not block level elements. They don't occupy their own blocks. So take note of that. So a P tag occupies its own block, right? That's why look at these two examples are on separate lines because they are block level. But look at this now. Look at this span. I place this span below this last A element. Because it is also an inline element, it just flows along. It just flows along as if you are writing from left to right. Right? So that's the difference between inline elements and block level elements. A very popular block level element is your div tag. Your div tag, using to group sections that really do not have any semantic meaning, right? You can put them in a div tag and group them together. So again, there is a way you can use CSS to convert an inline level element to a block level element. So when we get to CSS, we'll talk more about that. I hope that answered that last question. Yeah, somebody typed div there. Yeah. Yes, so I can see Brian is saying embedded style sheet. So you can put your CSS, you can embed your CSS inside just the way I did here. Where is it? Yeah, look at this place. So this is called inline CSS. I'm inserting the CSS directly in this particular P element. Ideally, this is not the best way. This is not the recommended, or this is not a best practice, right? So the best way is to have your CSS separate in a separate file. You can reference your CSS in an external file. That's one. Also, you can also have your CSS in this section of your head, in the head section, style here. So you can declare all your CSS controls inside this style section, so you don't have to put them in line as I did here, right? So that's another way to do that. So, but let me undo all these. So yeah, I was talking about header tags, and then we talked about inline versus block level elements. So I'm going to delete all, no, not all. I'm going to delete all these ones. Let's go back to developing our page. I'm going to remove all these so that we have this. So the next item on our page, what we're designing is the title of this blog page or this article, if we can use that word. So it says the continent of Africa. So we'll go back to and like we said, to follow semantic HTML, this shouldn't be the same size as this. So since this is already H1, then logically we can make this as H2 as the title of this document, this article. And then the other subsections can be H3, 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 and H3, and so on and so forth. So meaning we're going to do H2, H2, and then we can put in the content, come back here and paste. So you can see the content of Africa, the continent of Africa. So gradually we're building what we have here. So the next thing is the photo of this person. So how do we do that? In HTML, again, we're describing the structure of the HTML of the page. There is a particular tag or an element for doing that, which is the image tag, the image tag, the image tag. So, and how do you do that? You just type, the image tag is img, right? So now, if there is anything you don't know as a beginner, like I said, always refer to documentation. On VS Code, I believe you should be able to hover on any tag. Look at, if you place your cursor on any tag, you see this this pop-up, this tooltip, yeah, pop-up or tooltip, whatever you call it. It tells you the meaning of that particular tag. It says an img element represents an image. So that is what HTML does. We are marking up a web page using specific elements that describe different things, different sections we want to do. We want a paragraph, there's a p tag. We want a heading tag, a heading, there is h1 to h6. You want to link to other pages, there is an anchor tag. You want to list items, there are list tags, right? So, and if you click on this reference, now I mentioned reference documentation. If you click on this, let me quickly do this now and go to open. Let me bring this out here. It takes you straight to the reference documentation of that element. And here there's even a demo how you can try it out. It says try it. You can see. You can even edit what is here, and you can research. You can do so many things. It gives you more details. Try it. It gives you supported image formats, APNG, GIF, JPEG, PNG. It just goes a little bit more technical, giving you everything you need to know about that tag. By the left-hand side, you can see under these references here, this gives you the alphabetical list of all tags in HTML, HTML5. Look at ABBR, acronym, address, area, article, aside, audio, the B tag, which is now deprecated, base, BDR, and so on and so forth. So many tags down to XMP, WBR, video. If you want to include a video on your website, this is the tag you use, an HTML tag you use, VAR, UL on other lists, and so on and so forth. And if you click on any one of them, it gives you a description, tells you it gives you the documentation on how to use them. You can see UL, and then you put the list items as children. So there's a concept of parents and children. All tags you have within a particular tag are children or children this time around. They are children to that tag. Siblings are this one and these ones. We'll still talk about that when we get to CSS selectors. You understand the concept of children, siblings, parents, and all that. So for every list item, there must be a parent either on other list or an ordered list. If I edit this to I put an O here, ordered lists, you can see output. Is there a way to run this? I guess I can run this, but I should be able to run this. So ordered list should give me numbers 1, 2, 3. Nah. Anyways, so you get the idea. So we're having list items under a particular item as the parent. So that's reference documentation for you. If you're having challenges, you see a tag, you don't know much about it, hover on it, click on the reference or MDN reference. It takes you to that page. You can read more about it. So now we're talking about image, right? So IMG has two other attributes. Actually, there are other attributes, but the default ones, you can see source, you can see alt. There's also size, width, if you want to add width, if you want to add height. So elements have attributes. Attributes help us to extend the description of an element, right? So last week we talked about uh, opening tags and closing tags. There are some tags that are called void tags or void elements. You don't need a separate, for example, you don't in HTML, you don't do this. You don't do IMG. Look at this is you don't say this is opening and this is close. That is, you don't do that in HTML. So there are specific tags or elements like IMG, like break that we talked about last week, that are self-closing tags. So, or void tags. What you do is that you just put the forward slash at the end of that same element. So void elements or self-closing elements do not have contents. Remember, an element has an opening tag like this, the content, which can also be other HTML elements. That is the concept of nesting. You can nest. I can have an element with sub-element. So, but this is the opening tag. From here to here is the content, and here is the closing tag. So that's a tag. But for this one, this doesn't have a closing tag. It doesn't have content or children or siblings and the likes. So it is just like this. You close it by putting this forward slash at the end of the tag. So now, how do we display our HTML tag? Sorry, our image. So the attribute here is the source. You use the source attribute to give further description to that particular element, because we said this element doesn't have children, doesn't have content. So how do we give it a content? You do that by using attributes. And one of the attributes is source, SRC, meaning that what is the source of the image you want to display. Now already we have these images on this, I believe, are they on the same level? No, so they are not on the same level. I will explain that now. The image that I want to use is, I believe it is Africa. You can open in VS Code to check. Yeah, look at. So we are using this because we are mocking this, right? So we are mocking this. This is the image we want to use. So I can close this. That is africa.jpg. Now, if I put africa.jpg here, africa.jpg, now nothing is being displayed here. The reason is it is looking for africa.jpg on the same level as this index.html. So remember, it's looking for this. We have starter folder, index.html, inside this week2 folder. Remember, we have a week2 folder on the desktop. This desktop here, this folder here. So we have index and starter. These are the two items inside this enclosing folder. So what I'm trying to do here is that I'm telling this page, load africa.jpg from week2 folder. But now the interpreter comes to this week2 folder and checks, oh, hey, there is no africa.jpg in this place, right? So then what do you need to do? We need to go inside the starter folder and then load this web page. So you do that by normal, you do a forward slash. Forward slash means that I want to go into subfolders in the parent directory, right? So the first slash is week two, first slash is week two directory. Once you do that, then I can now enter into any of the subfolders. So I can do starter. You can see how VS Code is even assisting me to load the contents of each of those folders. So that means I can now scroll down to select any of the pictures to use. So I can do africa.jpg. So automatically this should load. You can see it's loading, or it has loaded already. So gradually we are building this, right? So we talked about attributes. Attributes are what you can use to extend the meaning of an HTML element. For example, cassette here is an attribute of this meta tag. Name, content, they are all attributes of meta. This lang here, lang is an attribute of HTML and all that. So let's reduce the size of this web page, and that gives you, or you can do that using the width attribute of the image, rather, not web page, image. So we are reducing the size of this image, and I can do, let's do 500 first, 500 pixel. You can see automatically it has, in fact, without even supplying the height, look at, let me take away the height. It has scaled down the image using the same aspect ratio. So if you want to include the height, if I do, let me just do 100 here. Let's see what will happen. You can see a width of 500 and height of 100. It has practically distorted, right, the image. So that's why sometimes if you want the aspect ratio to be maintained, the aspect ratio, meaning the dimension should be equal regardless of the fact that of whether it is being scaled up or scaled down. So if you know the dimension of the image, let's say it is 1000 by 500, and you want to scale it down by 2, that means it will be 500 by 250, by 2 again, 250 by 125. So that means we are maintaining the aspect ratio. The picture will not be distorted. But if you don't want to waste your time doing that, just put only the width attribute. The width attribute will still maintain the aspect ratio. For example, if I drop it down to 200, you can see, yeah, it's still maintaining the same aspect ratio. The picture is not distorted. It's still giving us a very nice, beautiful picture, although it has been scaled down, right? So let me take this back to 500. So that's what we have here. So we have this. Now let's talk about, I mentioned feed caption or caption for an image. So if you want to include a caption, now there is a particular tag. It's called feed caption. You can see. So everything has a tag for it in HTML. There's a tag for it. There's a tag. So fig caption. But fig caption alone doesn't or the way it is described is that it is a caption at the bottom of the parent element, but the recommended way of using fig caption is to use another element called figure. Now let's just go to documentation. So look at, if I go to documentation, let me bring this here. So the fig caption element, it says the fig caption element represents a caption or legend describing the rest of the contents of its parent figure element. Now see how it is used here. There is a parent figure element. Inside it, we'll now have one child, the image, and then another child, the fig caption. You can see, so that's how to use that. That's why documentation is good. So which means I'm going to have, there's a little extension I can use to wrap codes around this. I can just do this, Option W. I can do figure, and then inside this, I can put my image here. And then I can put my caption here. So the caption is, let's go back to the text again. It says giraffes. Oh, I think, okay, so let's just put this one here first. Giraffes at Kenya source Jane Doe of this. So let me put the caption here. So can you see? So gradually we are building. So we have giraffes at Kenya source Jane Doe at the Guardian newspaper, which is, if we look at what we already have here, the finished site, we're having a link to an external site, so you can do an hyperlink there. So I can see, yeah, so we missed this. There is the profile picture and then the post by. So let's quickly do that. That's another image. We have, it's already 4 p.m. So let me quickly add that image, IMG. Profile picture is, the name is profile.jpg. Remember, it is slash starter profile.jpg. Now you can see very large, like so, right? So let's reduce the width like we learned the other time. So 75. Let's do 75. Yep. So, and then we can just do a paragraph tag, p tag, and post or and add the posted by texts, in the p tag. So you can see gradually we're having this. Now, if you notice something, the figure element by default has a border rather around the image, If we compare this with the mock-up we have here, there is no border here. There's no border to the right, nor to the top or bottom. So what we can do now is to, let's just comment out this. We can use HTML, CSS to reset. You can reset your elements using CSS. But since we're not talking about CSS, let's comment out figure and just leave only fig caption. Then we'll have this. You can see the border has been removed. If you want to see, let me quickly undo this again. You can see the border is back. And if you right click and you do inspect, like we learned the last time, and you hover on this, you can see the yellow, I don't know, because this window is small, you may not be able to see, or let me just bring this up. Yeah, I will soon be rounding off. Let me expand this. So quickly, now yeah, see the way my mouse is on the figure element using, remember we talked about the developer tool last week. As I'm placing or hovering my mouse over the figure element, you can see the yellow border, the yellow section being highlighted on this. That shows that there is a padding. There's a padding around that particular HTML element. So that is the space that we are seeing here. So if we comment out figure again, and then, so that space should disappear. You can see no more space again. So we're going to stop here. Again, as we did last week, for those who can still wait behind to ask questions, I'm available online. If you have questions that you want to ask, everything is being recorded. Once the video is available on YouTube, you can watch the video and see how to finish up this. So, but I'm going to give you this um, development work as your week 2 assignment, right? We are going to go, I'm going to send you this. Where's the final? Yeah, I'm going to send you this. But what I would do is I will not send you the HTML itself. I'm going to give you a screenshot of this because if I send you the HTML, you will just copy the source code and paste it, right? I will give you a screenshot of this and then you need to come up with what you have here. So that's week 2 assignment. Alt the alt attribute. So for assistive technology and also for SEO, which is search engine optimization, it is a good programming practice to include the alternative text to all images. So the alternative text, just imagine somebody who is visually impaired trying to use your website, right? And the person is using a screen reader. So the screen reader gets to that because the Google crawler doesn't know the image it's crawling, so it only understands zeros and ones. But semantically speaking, giving it meaning so that somebody who is viewing the website knows what they are viewing. If somebody is visually impaired, so Google crawler will now look at the alternative text and say, oh, okay, this particular image is about a giraffe. Is about, oh, 2 giraffes, depending on what you've written here. For example, let me quickly go back under the giraffe one. I can put 2 giraffes in Africa, right? So that text, this text, 2 giraffes in Africa, is what the screen reader will read to the visually impaired person and let them know, oh, there's an image, and this image is about 2 giraffes in Africa, because that's what you've given, that's the text you've put in there. You are the developer. Whatever text you put there, that's what the screen reader will read. Then another advantage is that if for some reason this image is not displaying, maybe it is corrupted, a colleague of yours, when he was deploying his code, the person overwrote, or this particular picture, or the picture has been deleted, or while you are coding you mistakenly removed something like this. Instead of africa.jpg, jpg is now africa.jp. Box can come up anyhow. So if that happens, look at the web page. Let's go back to the web page, not this one, the one that we can refresh. Yeah, this one. So you can see the page is gone, the image is gone, but what we can see here is what? 2 giraffes. Look at 2 giraffes in Africa. If you are still online, we can see 2 giraffes in Africa, which is the alternate text that we gave to it here. 2 giraffes in Africa, so that the screen reader gets there, it says, oh, an image, even though the visually impaired person is not seeing the picture, and even at this point the picture is not even displaying. The screen reader tells the person that an image is there, and the alternate text is 2 giraffes in Africa.